Now from Björling as artist to a glimpse of Björling as a man. This interview was recorded in his hotel suite on remote equipment, which accounts perhaps for the somewhat less than perfect sound. The tape is One-Eyed Treasure. I hope you'll enjoy rehearing it. I am particularly privileged to have as my guest this morning the man many people consider to be the very greatest tenor in the world, Mr. Jussi Björling. Mr. Björling, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Björling, you've had quite a successful fall this year, haven't you?
Oh yes, I've been very successful.
Well, where were you singing?
In San Francisco and Chicago.
What were some of your roles?
Manrico and Trovatore, Bohème, Rigoletto, and Radames in Aida.
Is this the first time you sung Radames here in this country?
In this country, yes.
But you have sung it in Europe?
Yes, since 1933.
Well, this brings up some questions. You're also known for some of the more lyric roles, like Rodolfo in Bohème or Romeo, and here Radames, one of the heaviest of the dramatic roles. How would you characterize your voice? Is it a lyric voice or a dramatic voice?
I object a little bit when you say that the heaviest of all the dramatic roles. It's not so. It's supposed that the Radames is not a dramatic part. It's a spinto part, and it's a lyric passages that is for a dramatic tenor, but I tell you, it would be very difficult to sing.
I see. That's a very interesting point. Well, then you consider your voice a spinto voice?
Yes.
If you had your preference, generally speaking, if you could pick your own repertoire at any given season, what were the two or three roles you'd most like to sing?
Well, one of my favorite roles is Romeo and Juliet, and Bohème, Manon Lescaut, De Grieux in Manon Lescaut, and I like to sing very much Radames in Aida.
We've been playing a number of your records on Living Opera, and of course today we're featuring your voice. What are some of your future recording plans?
Well, we plan to do Faust and Ballon Maschera and Romeo and Juliet and Otello.
Wonderful, wonderful. Othello.
Yeah, well, for recording, I say recording.
I see.
I'm not that spinto, you know.
Do you have any other recording plans beside the ones we mentioned?
Well, it's going to be continuing, you know, but not right now. Well, I have, as a matter of fact, two Wagnerian parts. It's Lohengrin and Meistersinger.
Again, for recording only?
Yes.
I've heard rumors that you're going to be recording the Verdi Requiem sometime soon. Is that true?
That's right.
Well, who's going to be in it with you?
Renata Tibaldi will take the soprano part, and Giorgio Tozzi is the bass.
Do you know who's going to conduct?
Yes, the Sir Thomas Beecham.
Should be a recording to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how about your concert schedule in the next few months, Mr. Björling? Where do you go from here?
I have some TVs in Stockholm and in London, and then I have a concert tour in Germany, and then I come back here again in February, March, and April for 20 recitals around the country.
I know you'll be doing a recital at Hunter College.
That's right.
Is this the only time New Yorkers will get a chance to hear you?
Well, this spring, yes.
That's what I meant, this coming season.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard rumors, I don't know if they're true or not, that you were offered the tenor part in Bellini's Il Pirata, which the American Opera Society is going to be doing soon with Maria Callas. Is that true?
That's right. But unfortunately, I cannot do it. I have not the time.
May I say, I'm dreadfully sorry to hear that.
Well, so am I.
It's a marvelous role. It was written for Rubini, I understand.
Yes, that's true.
By the way, just in passing, did you know that you held the Metropolitan record for the most curtain calls?
Yes, I've heard about it.
I just found out last week that in a performance of Tosca, you and Madame Tibaldi on February 27th, 1956, you took 28 curtain calls.
Yes, that's true.
What about the Metropolitan career, Mr. Björling? When did you make your debut there?
Well, I never forget that. That was Thanksgiving Day, 1938.
Well, how come you remember that so clearly?
Oh, it was a blizzard. There was no taxis around, and the subway was blocked and everything. So I had to walk from my hotel at 59th Street at Central Park way down to the 39th Street.
And then sing a performance.
That's right.
What was the role?
It was Rodolfo in Bohème.
Is this a role perhaps you sung more often than most other? I remember hearing you in it very often.
I sang Rodolphe quite a bit, yes. Close to 300.
Mr. Björling, when was your first operatic debut, the first leading role you sang anywhere in the world?
It was in 1930 at the Royal Opera in Stockholm.
You were very young then, weren't you?
Like 19 years.
That's very young indeed.
Well, I had 1 year in opera school, you know. In Europe, you know, you have to make 3 major debuts before you can call yourself an opera star, opera singer rather.
That's very interesting. How do you mean?
I made 3. The first one was Don Ottavio and Don Giovanni, and then Arnoldo in Wilhelm Tell, and Almaviva in The Barber of Seville.
Well, that leads me to another question. There must be a number of roles in your repertoire which you haven't sung here. By the way, how many roles do you say you have in your repertoire, all told?
Altogether?
Yeah.
Well, between 75 and 80.
Well, of these 75 or 80, there must be quite a few you haven't sung here in the United States. I know of a few. There's Vasco da Gama and L'Africaine, for example.
Yes, I sang that.
In Europe?
In Stockholm, yes.
How about The Girl of the Golden West? You never sang that here.
Yes, no, not here. I sang it in Stockholm.
Let me see if I think of a few others that you haven't sung here. Floristan, Fidelio.
Oh, yes.
And Almaviva you just mentioned. And how about Nemorino? You didn't sing this here, did you?
Not here, but in Europe many times.
Well, how about some roles you haven't sung anywhere in the world? Are there any of these roles that you'd like to add to your repertoire now?
Yes, I would like to see Andrea Chenier, Don Jose, Carmen.
Uh-huh. There's one I'd like to suggest. I know you do the Des Grieux in Manon Lescaut very beautifully. How about the Des Grieux in Massenet's Manon?
Well, yes, I would like to do that too.
If I could just mention that here. I have a recording of you singing Alfouillet du Ciment.
Well, you know, if I would going to do everything I want to do and the public want me to do, the rest I would do till I'm finished. I would have to rehearse all those things, you know, and learn all the things.
I know it'll be hard for you, it'll be marvelous for us. Here's a question that perhaps might be a little bit of a curveball, Mr. Björling. Who are some of your favorite performers, some of your favorite singers?
Well, that's difficult to say because I've had so many favorites. But I sang a lot with Zinka Milanov at the Met, you know, from my very beginning here, and she's always been very nice to sing with, and one of the best sopranos I know. In the later years, I have been singing some with Tebaldi. She's a very wonderful artist, and of course for 2-3 years ago I sang with Callas, and she's wonderful too. I have so many favorites. I'm sorry if I don't mention them all, but
well, how about among the men?
I can tell you my first experience, but some great singers. This was in Stockholm some years ago. I sang quite a few times with Fyodor Shalyapin.
Must be a very exciting experience.
Yes, it was, really.
How about some of those who are singing now?
Well, there are wonderful singers like Leonard Warren and Robert Merrill and Bastianini, to mention a few. And there are some very nice colleagues of mine that I haven't sang together with, but we are very good friends, and I like them very much. And that's Jan Pearce, Richard Tucker. And there's a new tenor at the Met. His name is Bergonzi. He's excellent.
Let me take one of the roles now with which you're becoming more and more identified, Radames in Aida. Do you find this character particularly difficult to portray from an acting standpoint? Do you find it kind of silly walking around in short skirts?
I have not thought about that, because you walk around in so many different costumes at the opera stage, you know, so you almost always you feel silly going around like that, you know.
Well, how about chances for a concert then in which you'll be wearing full dress and perhaps feeling a little bit more comfortable?
Well, that's my usually working clothes, you know, the full dress.
Was there a chance perhaps of New Yorkers getting to hear you in a concert like that marvelous one you did last season?
I hope so.
There have been rumors going around that there might be a chance for a joint concert, perhaps with you and Madame Tebaldi, or you and Eileen Farrell with a full orchestra. Is there any possibility of this coming to be?
I would love to do that, but so far this is news to me.
What would you say is your favorite encore aria, the one that perhaps is most requested by audiences, or the one you most like to sing at the end of a recital?
Well, that's difficult to say, but I would say Amor ti vieta, Giordano's
From Fedora.
Fedora.
Marvelous, marvelous thing. Mr. Björling, may I say thank you very much for taking the time of being with us this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be with you, and may I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir, and to you too.
Thank you.
The tenor, who was smazed in last Sunday, and we were much worried about him. But Mr. Björling is with me this morning, and Jussi Björling, this is not the first time you've come to the United States these last few years at the Metropolitan. I think you were here some years ago.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it was 1919, 1920.
For 2 years then?
2 years, yes.
And how did that happen?
Well, I came here with my father and my 2 brothers. And we were traveling around, or rather from coast to coast, singing in Swedish churches.
Oh, singing?
Yes.
Making a concert tour?
Concert tour, yeah.
And in the Swedish churches? Are there
Yes.
enough of them for that?
Oh, yes, there's a lot of them. Well, not only Swedish churches, I must say. Well,
Concert halls, too?
yes, concert halls.
But you must have been a very little boy in 1919.
Yes, I was 9 years old.
9 years old.
Mhm.
You were doing mostly church music?
That's right.
How did you happen to have this group with your father and your 2 brothers? What did you use, a quartet, and what did you call yourself?
Well, we were called the Björling Male Quartet.
And how did you happen to be organized?
Well, my father took care of that. He was a singer himself, a tenor. And when my mother died, and he wanted to get away from Sweden, then he took us over here and decided he wanted to make a tour through the country, and that he did.
And was your father an operatic tenor also?
Yes, he was.
Did he ever sing in this country?
Not at the Met, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I was thinking that, I
No.
guess.
No.
Didn't I read someplace or hear someone say that he had been at the Metropolitan Opera School?
Yes, that's right. He was a pupil at the Metropolitan Opera School. I don't know very much about it, but because that was around 1900.
Yes. No, you weren't thinking very much. At
No,
that.
I did
You
not.
weren't even a glint in your father's eye at that,
Right, you are.
at that moment. But then he went back to Sweden and made his operatic debut there?
Yes.
And did he sing only in Sweden or all over
No,
Europe?
all over Europe. Especially in Vienna, he was a lot.
Oh, yes, but never got back to the Metropolitan.
No. That's
Stayed
right.
at home and raised the family
That's
instead. Are any of your brothers, either one of your brothers, musicians?
Yes, my younger brother is now a leading tenor of the Royal Opera House in Stockholm.
Oh, we might have 2 Björlings here in New York before we know
Oh,
it.
you can never tell.
Well, how did you happen to take up opera as a career?
Well, when my father died in 1926, I went to Stockholm. There I came to the musical academy. My teacher was John Forsell, was the famous baritone, and he was also the royal manager of the Stockholm Opera House.
Oh, well, that was convenient.
Yes, it was. And I made my debut at 1929
What role?
in Don Ottavio and Don Giovanni.
Oh, I'd like to hear you sing Don Ottavio. It seems to me as though it would be particularly suited to your voice, which is so clear. Do you ever sing Don Ottavio anymore?
No, not anymore. No.
How do you account for that?
Well, I don't know. When I began to study roles, parts in the original languages, I picked the parts that wasn't so much recitatives,
Oh, yes.
but it was rather difficult.
With-
You know, in all the Mozart music is a lot of recitatives.
Oh, yes, that's right. And they have to be very fast. And you really should speak a rather fluent Italian to do them
Yes,
properly.
that's right.
What other languages do you speak besides English and Swedish?
Oh, I speak a little French,
Well, I think that's rather obvious when we hear you in the Faust
German, of course.
and German. I'd like to ask you about your impressions. Of course, this new Faust is a very controversial subject just now. Many people think it's good, many people think it's bad, but what is your impression?
Well, I think it's wonderful.
In what way?
Well, it's a complete new opera, you know.
Well, it is.
Well, the music is the same, of course, but the setting and everything is absolutely something different.
And as Faust, you really feel that you're singing a different opera practically, really?
Not singing, I wouldn't say that, but the whole stage business is quite different.
How would you compare it or contrast it with the Faust that you have done before?
Well, I don't know. The contrast, you know, the old Faust was, well, it was in, well, I don't know what to say, in hats with plumes, you know.
Yes.
And now I wear a top hat.
Yes.
That's it. That is a contrast.
Well, I wonder if you can answer one question. At the time I had interviewed Peter Brook and Rolf Gerard, I hadn't seen the dress rehearsal or the performance of Faust, and so I didn't know that when the old philosopher changes, makes this magic change and comes out as a handsome young man, that he didn't come out in a refurbished dress. It's rather a drab robe you still appear in.
Yes,
The
I
only thing
know.
that looks young and handsome is the head
Yes.
and face.
Well, there is not enough time on stage to do that, you know.
I
That's the
thought-
only thing. That's the only way I can explain it.
Yes. Is there any particular scene in the present Faust that you like especially?
Well, I like the garden scene very much, and the first scene with Mephisto.
Yes, that's very nice.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Rossi Lemani is an excellent actor.
He's wonderful,
charming
really.
to work with, I
yes,
should
he
think.
is, and a very, very fine colleague.
And I love it when you're pulling the pages from the book and
Yeah,
throwing them
yeah.
dramatically into the
Mhm.
fire. It's quite symbolic. I should think in your singing career now since 1926, you must have had some particularly interesting experiences. Is there any one that stands out to you as being something that you remember and enjoyed especially?
Well, if you, yes, I sang once in San Francisco, 1950, in Romeo and Juliet, and Juliet that time was my wife.
Oh, Anneliese Björling.
Yes, and that was, well, you know, that was very exciting and something I will never forget, of course.
In a case like that, you can really sing I Love You and mean it.
Yes, absolutely.
But not only that, I've heard such wonderful things. I unfortunately have not heard your wife sing, but I've heard wonderful reports of her beautiful voice. I wish we might hear her in the opera here. Is there any chance of that, or does the
Well-
family and a tenor in the family keep her busy?
I think it's enough with one in the family, tenor or soprano, don't you?
Yes, more or less. But you do concerts together.
Yes, we do. Very often.
That doesn't require as much time on her part as a full operatic career would.
No, but we still sing together.
And you do have a nice family. You have 3 children, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
What is that, boys, girls?
2 boys and a girl.
And have they been over here at all?
Yes, twice.
But they live in Sweden most of the
They go
time.
in school in Sweden, that's right.
Or do you get to spend much time with them?
Well, the whole summer.
Oh,
We
fine.
have a beautiful place at the archipelago of Stockholm, where we played tennis and, well, you know what, everything you
Yes.
should do during the holidays.
Yes. And how about during Christmas time? Will you get back there?
Yes. The 18th of December we go back with the Scandinavian airline. I have to make a little propaganda for them too.
And then when do you return to the Metropolitan?
Well, to the Metropolitan I don't know really, because I am coming back earlier than I expected, because I'm doing a broadcast and recording with Maestro Toscanini.
Oh, yes.
We went through the masked ball,
Oh,
the
fine.
whole business.
I'm glad to hear that.
Mhm.
Who else will be in the cast? Do you know yet?
Yes, I do. Well, yes and no, so I better not say anything about that.
Oh, you're not at all sure that it's
No,
to
not
be
quite.
released at the moment. At least we know that Jussi Björling
I
will
know
be
the
in.
tenor, yes.
I see. You know the tenor. What kind of Christmas? Is the Christmas in Sweden at all different from our Christmas here?
No, not very much. About the same. Christmas presents, and you go early in the morning, Christmas Day, to the church, and I think it's just like here.
Sometimes people have very odd things happen to them in the opera. I personally have never seen anything strange happen to you, like you're losing a costume or dropping a hat or anything. Do you recall anything that has happened that was...
Well, no, I'm not dropping a costume or a hat, but, well, a funny thing happened once in Stockholm. I was singing Bohème, and in the last act, I used to carry Mimi on stage when she's sick, And that time, the Mimi was rather heavy, or I was weak. I don't know if that happened. But when I was going to put her down on the bed, I might drop her a little too fast because the bottom of the bed broke down, So that was very difficult to finish that Bohème that
Well, I
time.
hope she was good-natured. Many people might think that a tenor had deliberately dropped the soprano.
we
But I
both
don't believe
laughed
you're the
about it.
type. I don't think
No,
you would
no.
do that sort of thing. Well, this last year, since Christmas 1952, you've had an extremely busy schedule.
Yes,
Aside
yeah.
from your bit of... how long vacation did you have in Sweden last summer?
Oh, about 3 months.
Oh, 3 months. Well,
Yes,
that's-
but I was singing in Stockholm and in Sweden during that vacation, so it was not really a complete vacation.
I see. What all have you done since you were here last?
Oh, I've been in England, France, and, some other places in Europe, and all Scandinavian, of course.
And what other roles will you be singing at the Metropolitan Opera?
I was in Rigoletto, the Duke in Rigoletto, and Manrico in Trovatore, and Rodolfo in Bohème.
I still wish I could hear you sing some of the things. Maybe you will make a recording of just the arias of Don Ottavio, the aria of Don Ottavio from Don Giovanni.
Oh, I haven't thought of that. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Yes, it is.
Well, just now, though, we can hear Jussi Björling sing the aria from Faust as he sings it at the Metropolitan. In this case, we'll hear it from his RCA Victor recording of arias by Jussi Björling.